Welcome to our YouTube channel where we explore the world of self-improvement, personal development, and all things related to enhancing your mindset. In today's video, we will delve into the insightful and practical book, Superthinking, by Gabriel Weinberg with Lauren McCann. Gabriel Weinberg and Lauren McCann have combined their expertise to create a masterpiece that focuses on improving critical thinking and decision-making skills. This book is a treasure trove of strategies and techniques that can help you unlock your full cognitive potential and make better decisions in all aspects of your life. So, let's dive into the summary of this incredible book. But before we dive into the content, I kindly request a moment of your time to appreciate this video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Superthinking is not your typical self-help book. It's a comprehensive guide to thinking smarter, making better choices, and understanding the complexities of decision-making. The authors draw on a diverse range of disciplines, including psychology, economics, and neuroscience, to provide practical insights that can be applied in real-world situations. One of the key themes of the book is the concept of mental models, which are frameworks for understanding how the world works. By adopting and using different mental models, you can enhance your problem-solving abilities, analyze situations from multiple perspectives, and make more informed decisions. In Superthinking, Weinberg and McCann introduce readers to a wide array of mental models, such as probabilistic thinking, inversion, second-order thinking, and Occam's razor. Each model is explained in simple terms and accompanied by real-life examples to help you grasp its practical applications. The book also explores the biases and cognitive traps that can cloud our judgment and lead to poor decision-making. By being aware of these biases and learning how to counteract them, you can improve your reasoning skills and avoid common pitfalls in thinking. Superthinking emphasizes the significance of critical thinking in both personal and professional contexts. Whether you're making financial decisions, evaluating data, or solving problems, having a strong foundation in critical thinking can give you a competitive edge and help you navigate today's complex world with confidence. Superthinking by Gabriel Weinberg with Lauren McCann is a book that teaches readers to think more effectively. It offers strategies to improve decision-making, problem-solving, creativity, and more. Superthinking is a conceptual toolkit designed to help you cut through complexity and make better decisions. Drawing on insights from fields as varied as biology and economics, entrepreneur Gabriel Weinberg and statistician Lauren McCann present the mental models used by today's top problem solvers and decision-makers. But this isn't a dry academic treatise on logic. Apply these models to your personal and professional conundrums, and you'll be well on your way to becoming a super thinker in your own right. Superthinking by Gabriel Weinberg with Lauren McCann explores mental models and how they can improve decision-making and problem-solving. Here's why this book is worth reading. It offers a comprehensive collection of mental models, providing readers with practical tools to make better decisions in all aspects of life. Through a blend of real-world examples and case studies, the book demonstrates how mental models have been applied successfully, making it highly relatable and applicable. The authors clearly explain complex concepts in a concise and accessible manner, ensuring the book is engaging and informative, rather than dry and dull. Here is a sentence showcasing the greatness of a quote of this remarkable book. "Everything should be made as simple as it can be, but not simpler." Roger Sessions. Gabriel Weinberg with Lauren McCann. Those are the individuals who truly deserve to immerse themselves in this remarkable book. Thinkers and logicians, science buffs, self-optimizers. Flawed thinking can lead to poor decisions that negatively impact many areas of life. In Superthinking, the big book of mental models, authors Gabriel Weinberg and Lauren McCann explore how to improve your decision-making process by recognizing common errors in judgment and employing mental frameworks to think more objectively. This guide examines cognitive biases that distort reasoning and offers strategies to mitigate their influence. It also introduces methods for evaluating options systematically, anticipating indirect consequences, and fostering adaptability in complex systems. By expanding your mental toolbox with models from diverse disciplines, you can gain a competitive edge through specialized skills and enhanced decision-making abilities. Utilize methods such as envisioning various future scenarios and conducting a pre-mortem analysis to rigorously evaluate assumptions and strategies. Scenario analysis, or scenario planning, is a technique where you systematically think through multiple hypothetical scenarios that might unfold in order to develop mitigation strategies and to test the assumptions underlying your plan. A related tactic is the pre-mortem, where you assume ahead of time that your plan has failed and then try to understand why it could have failed. This creative process helps to uncover potential risks associated with a project, including those that may not be readily apparent. Cultivate the skill to prosper in surroundings that are perpetually changing and complex. Throughout your existence, you will experience a variety of transformations that span the personal, professional, and societal realms. Weinberg and McCann encourage the comprehension of models that clarify the underlying forces of these transformations and offer methods to anticipate and possibly instigate change. Navigating the world's ever-changing and unpredictable landscape successfully necessitates a high degree of adaptability. Studies suggest that, in the workplace, extroverts are both higher paid and more quickly promoted than their introverted colleagues. Consequently, introverts are incentivized to act more extroverted. However, introverts who act extroverted in the short term can experience fatigue and diminished performance in the long term. Accordingly, it's important to avoid excessively encouraging introverts to become more extroverted in the workplace. Adaptation as an infinite game. By constantly adapting to a dynamic society, you treat business as an infinite game, like Tetris, where the objective is to continue playing indefinitely. In doing so, Simon Sinek argues that you'll be more successful than if you view business as a finite game, like chess that has a fixed endpoint. To treat business as an infinite game you adapt to, Sinek encourages the following. Be prepared to pivot proactively. By anticipating changing societal preferences, you can position yourself to thrive when change does occur. Study worthy competitors. By studying successful competitor strategies, you can learn additional ways to adapt and survive. Build trusting teams. If you cultivate trust, your employees are more likely to discuss ideas for improving your company. Embrace a mindset that values persistent growth and receptiveness to experimentation and adjustment when confronted with substantial changes, thus acknowledging the unpredictable elements of the future. The authors narrate an instance in which the Argentine team emerged victorious against the U.S. men's Olympic basketball squad, marking their initial loss in 2004, despite the team being stacked with NBA All-Stars. The disruption was largely attributed to the exceptional synergy within the Argentine team, stemming from years dedicated to honing their cooperative approach and customizing their strategies to complement their distinct skills. This method embraces a process of trial and error, persevering through challenges without being influenced by whether the outcomes match your original expectations. Even when they're available, star employees can create challenges in your team. For example, hiring a star can result in more interpersonal conflict, possibly owing to jealousy and resentment, which hurts productivity. In a similar vein, providing too much positive feedback to your star can feed their ego and harm team performance. So, star employees aren't always worth the trouble. Weinberg and McCann emphasize the necessity of adapting your approach when existing strategies prove ineffective. After the U.S. basketball team's loss in 2004, the coaching approach was transformed to prioritize teamwork rather than just gathering a group of NBA All-Stars, reflecting the effective strategies of competing countries. The most famous historical example of appeasement was actually a flop. In 1938, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain signed the Munich Agreement, licensing the German annexation of Sudetenland to appease Germany and avoid further conflict. This decision famously proved moot. Conflict ensued nonetheless. Though the Munich Agreement is often cited as a cautionary tale against appeasement, this may be a case of hindsight bias, thinking an outcome was easier to predict in hindsight than it actually was. Encouraging flexibility is fundamentally underpinned by embracing a mindset focused on development. It is the belief that you can improve your own skills and abilities over time rather than having a fixed mindset, the belief that your abilities cannot be improved. For example, by embracing a growth mindset in the realm of music, you would commit to consistent piano practice to enhance your skills, rather than clinging to the idea that an absence of natural musical ability dooms you to perpetual ineptitude at the instrument. More ways to improve organizational culture. While Weinberg and McCann view organizational culture as only one component of thriving businesses, Patrick Lencioni argues that it's the single biggest advantage a business can attain. In The Advantage, Lencioni offers several recommendations for improving organizational culture to supplement Weinberg and McCann's strategies. Encourage healthy debate among the leadership team, allowing members to determine the best idea on its merits. Foster accountability among team members. This decreases the burden on leaders to hold everyone accountable. Implement achievable short-term goals. This guarantees consistent improvement and prevents stagnation. Although these steps don't invoke mental models, they offer helpful insights into the foundation of a healthy organizational culture. When utilized alongside Weinberg and McCann's suggestions, they can help you nurture effective teams that are prepared for success. Utilize mental approaches like the principle of equilibrium shifts and the concept of cumulative momentum, while also being prudent, to strengthen your ability to adjust and persevere amidst transformation. Weinberg and McCann describe how systems inherently adjust to external changes in pursuit of establishing a different equilibrium. When a system carries extra weight, it will try to adjust its structure to accommodate the increased burden, potentially by shifting its center of balance. When the government implements a new tax, individuals modify their behavior to minimize the amount they owe. In The Great Mental Models Volume 2, Parrish and Beaubien discuss a closely related physics model, friction, a force that hinders motion. In a business context, external factors can create friction and hinder adaptation. For example, computer companies might encounter friction via hardware manufacturing issues, and startups might encounter friction in the form of funding issues. When working in concert, friction and inertia can lead to stagnation. Because of inertia, entities that are currently stationary tend to stay stationary, and because of friction, external factors make it difficult to change paths. The authors illustrate that while it takes considerable effort to start making progress, it becomes simpler to sustain once momentum is gained, using the analogy of a flywheel. The authors recount a story from Bill Bryson's writings where an archaeological team's local workers broke large bones into many smaller fragments to increase their earnings, since their compensation was based on the number of bones found rather than their size. Weinberg and McCann characterize the precautionary principle as an approach that emphasizes heightened caution in scenarios where significant damage could occur, particularly when the extent of that damage is not clear. For instance, numerous entities and nations are taking steps to prohibit specific artificial substances present in plastics and other products due to concerns that these compounds can imitate hormones in humans and animals, potentially resulting in detrimental health consequences even when present in minimal quantities. Pushback against the precautionary principle. Although the precautionary principle seems intuitive, legal scholars have argued that it has untenable consequences. In particular, when all possible decisions have potentially harmful consequences, the precautionary principle ends in stalemate. For instance, critics of nuclear power object to its potentially catastrophic consequences, while the alternative, fossil fuels, might lead to devastating climate change. The precautionary principle offers little help in such situations. More generally, these situations illustrate conflict between the precautionary principle and expected utility theory, the view that the rational decision in a given context maximizes utility. In short, it yields the highest net benefit on average. Because high-risk decisions sometimes have sufficiently high rewards, expected utility theory might recommend making such decisions where the precautionary principle counsels caution. For example, the possibly vast rewards of transitioning to nuclear energy could justify our doing so, in spite of the risks. To reconcile these decision-making principles, some have argued that the precautionary principle is simply a helpful heuristic to use in practice, not a foolproof law of decision theory. In other words, the precautionary principle is a useful guideline, despite being theoretically questionable. Utilizing a variety of mental models aids in cultivating specialized skills and gaining a competitive advantage. Developing a distinctive combination of abilities and expertise can hasten your professional growth or the progress of your business. Weinberg and McCann explore concepts like generalist versus specialist, show how to identify and protect unique competitive advantages, and tie it all back to using mental models across disciplines to improve your decision-making and make you a more intelligent person. Cultivate profound, specialized knowledge while steering clear of the constraints associated with narrow expertise. In a knowledge-driven economy, possessing specialized skills is crucial for success, But if you don't have a broader outlook, you might find that your expertise becomes isolated, leaving you ill-equipped to adapt to changes in your field of work. Weinberg and McCann encourage a proactive approach in determining the extent of your specialization and in seeking opportunities to merge your unique expertise with a wider viewpoint. Weinberg and McCann don't offer actionable advice for finding your North Star. However, Simon Sinek's Start with Why provides a strategy. Step back and reflect on your motivations for your actions. This might involve asking, what do I particularly enjoy about my job? For example, if you own a bakery, you reflect and realize that baking serves your larger goal, bringing your community together in a warm environment. Understand the differences between specialists and generalists, and become adept at leveraging both viewpoints to your advantage. Weinberg and McCann point out that while generalists have a lot of advantages, especially in smaller organizations where they can apply their knowledge to a broad array of problems, it is difficult for generalists to achieve world-class status. Specialists, by contrast, can become highly effective and achieve mastery within their specific domains, but without guidance, they may find themselves following paths that lead to obsolescence. Organizations enhance their success by deliberately incorporating diverse perspectives and by purposefully defining roles to leverage the distinct strengths of every participant. In The Great Mental Models Volume 2, Shane Parrish and Rhiannon Beaubien observe that the generalist versus specialist distinction is likewise applicable to entire companies. Generalist companies, like Walmart, offer wide ranges of products. By contrast, specialist companies, like Untuckit, which sells casual men's shirts, focus on more specific niches. The authors introduce a conceptual framework to evaluate individual strengths, contrasting the characteristics of foxes with those of hedgehogs. The writers underscore the contrast between general understanding and deep specialization, referencing an ancient proverb that contrasts the fox, with its wide variety of tactics, to the hedgehog, which is deeply versed in one essential domain. Hedgehogs navigate life's path using a core principle that influences their choices. Foxes excel by grasping the intricacies inherent in multifaceted systems and delight in synthesizing various bits of data to inform their decisions. The authors demonstrate that success is attainable with either approach, citing research that indicates entrepreneurs often find greater success when they exhibit hedgehog-like focus, whereas those with fox-like qualities are more adept at making predictions. Weinberg and McCann discuss deep work as an alternative to multitasking, which diffuses your concentration across various activities. However, Newport clarifies that deep work is also an alternative to task switching, where you frequently shift gears from one task to another. Because mental residue from the previous task takes several minutes to overcome, Newport argues that task switching also inhibits efficiency. Utilize mental models, including the concept of the maker schedule and insights from the Dunning-Kruger effect, to enhance your abilities. The authors offer a range of tactics to improve the way one oversees individuals and to identify the positions that best align with their abilities. Weinberg and McCann explore the subtle distinctions that set apart the schedules of managers and creators in the chapter dedicated to unlocking human potential. Managers can transition between tasks with ease, while creators require extended periods of undisturbed time to achieve their highest level of productivity. Leaders must recognize the significance of fostering a setting that bolsters the prosperity of innovators by minimizing unnecessary meetings and interruptions. The book delves into how an individual's confidence varies as they progress from a novice level of comprehension to a state of advanced expertise, a phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. At the beginning of their educational journey, individuals often feel a boost in self-assurance as they rapidly take in new knowledge. As people immerse themselves more thoroughly in a topic, they often become aware of the limitations in their understanding, which can lead to a reduction in their confidence. With ongoing dedication to enhancing their skills and gaining pertinent experience, as mentioned in Chapter 8, individuals gradually regain their confidence. In Peak, Erickson clarifies further components of deliberate practice to keep in mind. For example, deliberate practice needs to involve precise, objective measurement. There must be a concrete way to determine your performance and progress. Moreover, deliberate practice must be competitive. You need incentives to succeed and disincentives to fail. Building organizational health for remote companies. Weinberg and McCann's advice for winning hearts and minds is geared toward companies that operate in person. However, the COVID-19 pandemic shifted many companies to remote work. For such companies, it can be harder to establish a cohesive organizational culture, since there's less in-person interaction to reinforce norms and values. But there are strategies to mitigate this problem. Organize monthly all-hands meetings, which provide an avenue for clear communication and strengthen your team's sense of belonging. Introduce fun team-building activities, which reinforce the personal connection between your team members. Create avenues for casual conversation, which yields a warmer environment. Praise individual accomplishments, which reminds employees that they're appreciated. Establish enduring advantages in competition through the discovery and utilization of valuable insights. Weinberg and McCann characterize a secret as information that can create a dominant position in the market, yet frequently remains unnoticed. They cite the case of Airbnb, highlighting how before its inception, the idea of establishing a billion-dollar company simply by connecting people with spare rooms to those seeking accommodation was hardly contemplated. The authors characterize the uncovering of such secrets as the initial and crucial phase for any company or innovation intent on challenging the established norms. An idea can still be considered a secret even if it isn't entirely unique. A concept might also offer a strategy to achieve what is frequently deemed unreachable or elusive. The genuine worth of this understanding is found in its ability to sustain market dominance over a prolonged time frame. Further steps for finding secrets. Weinberg and McCann cite Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, as the origin of their proposal to find secrets. In the book, Thiel offers several additional steps for finding secrets. Believe that secrets are out there. Resist the temptation to believe that we've already uncovered all the relevant secrets. Examine questions that mainstream thinkers seem to ignore or deem worthless. These questions often reveal secrets. Be willing to look foolish by questioning conventional assumptions. Adherence to these assumptions can inhibit our ability to unearth secrets. Historically, the Wright brothers exemplified these steps in developing the first successful airplane. By questioning the conventional assumption that flying was technologically impossible, they discovered secrets, like using wing warping to generate more lift, which culminated in a successful flight in December of 1903. Acknowledge the importance of adopting unique viewpoints and understand how pivotal timing is in capitalizing on those perspectives. The authors convey the idea that achieving outstanding outcomes with an idea requires both an accurate comprehension and a unique perspective that diverges from conventional wisdom. They cite investor Warren Buffett in pointing out that the best time to invest in an idea or company is when no one else is interested in it, since at that point it is much more likely that you are betting on superior information. Weinberg and McCann highlight a significant point credited to Jeff Bezos, emphasizing that people who dispute the prevailing view frequently make mistakes. The inherent nature of secrets often leads to a high likelihood of failure in many of these ventures that aim to predict or shape the future. When a concept that has been kept confidential is disclosed at just the right time and leads to triumph, the benefits can be significant. Erect obstacles and build up momentum to maintain your advantage over a prolonged duration. The book describes a metaphorical barrier designed to protect a company's market share from competitive pressures. The most obvious examples are those based on protected intellectual property, but in practice a moat can take many other forms as well, including exclusive access to resources, deals, relationships, data, materials, and network effects. Organizations or individuals must focus on developing unique skills, building a strong and dependable reputation, and investing heavily in innovation and advancement to sustain a competitive advantage over others. In certain contexts, the term leverage has a negative connotation, as it involves exploiting an advantage to get what you want. For example, a corrupt politician might leverage their influence to get unpopular bills passed. Alternatively, in The Great Mental Models Volume 2, Shane Parrish and Rhiannon Beaubien argue that leverage can be an extension of reciprocity. In other words, leverage allows you to offer others the best exchange for your services, which benefits all parties. Creating a moat can foster customer loyalty by making the perceived obstacles to adopting an alternative product or service seem overwhelmingly daunting. However, Weinberg and McCann stress that no moat lasts forever. Technological advancements may, over time, leave any competitive edge vulnerable to changes in the marketplace. Reflect on the role that the emergence of digital imaging technology and the swift growth of the Internet played in the decline of once dominant companies such as Kodak and AOL. Weinberg and McCann discuss customer development in the context of specific products. However, customer development is also applicable to entire business models. In particular, startups can use customer development to determine the strengths and weaknesses of their potential business models. For example, startups might run surveys to assess consumer needs and develop business models to meet those needs. Though sustainable competitive advantage is widely touted as the holy grail of business, some recommend instead pursuing transient advantages, short-term edges that collectively yield long-term success. In particular, they argue that sustainable competitive advantage is unrealistic, as globalization and increased digitization have made it harder to derive long-term edges. So, rather than pursuing sustainable advantages, they recommend seeking short-term advantages to exploit. For example, Amazon gained transient advantage by offering incrementally more products. It started as a platform for selling books, then added CDs, then expanded to products like toys and electronics, and eventually launched a streaming service. None of these advantages were sustainable. Other companies also sold CDs and goods online, and other streaming services emerged, but each one provided a short-term advantage that Amazon exploited for a certain period. However, these short-term edges may have collectively yielded a long-term edge, because the sheer range of products available on Amazon is now a sustainable competitive advantage. Cultivate the habit of utilizing cognitive frameworks from a range of scholarly disciplines. The authors demonstrate the versatility of various frameworks which are applied to diverse situations and are named after their respective fields. For instance, physics with the notion of a pivotal accumulation point, biology through the concept of a significant segment of the population acquiring immunity, and game theory as seen in The Prisoner's Dilemma. While containment can prevent domino effects, it can also have adverse consequences. For example, consider the historical paradigm of containment. President Harry Truman's strategy in the Cold War to prevent the expansion of the Soviet Union. To prevent communism from gaining influence, Truman provided military and economic assistance to countries at risk of Soviet invasion. However, scholars allege that Truman's containment strategy inadvertently inhibited diplomacy and the possibility of dialogue with the Soviets. Containment, then, isn't always a risk-free approach. The authors illustrate the similarity between mental models and the concept of learning multiplication by emphasizing that once you understand multiplication as merely a faster method of continuous addition, it's hard to imagine not having this understanding in your repertoire. Cognitive frameworks are potent instruments that enhance mental productivity, enabling quicker access to complex understanding and fostering the development of intricate cognitive abilities. In The Great Mental Models Volume 1, Shane Parrish and Rhiannon Beaubien describe mental models as representations of how things work. Weinberg and McCann, however, go further, using the term mental models to describe a wide array of concepts beyond mere representations of how things work. For example, they even refer to generic phenomena such as multitasking and organizational culture as mental models. For clarity, we've italicized the mental models included in this guide. Understand the significance of utilizing conceptual models from fields like physics and biology to make sense of various situations. The authors underscore the method's efficacy by citing instances that have actually occurred. The authors illustrate that the concept often associated with epidemiology, which is the collective resistance to the spread of a contagious disease within a population that results when a sufficiently high proportion of individuals are immune to the disease, can also affect societal actions, exemplifying that unchecked littering and graffiti can lead to their proliferation. The concept of a critical amount, which has its roots in physics, is relevant to a wide array of scenarios such as the proliferation of product use and various elements of human development. They argue that the central challenge of any disruptive innovation is figuring out how to get your product to reach critical mass, and thereafter sustain that advantage for the long term. Products that attain product/market fit still undergo the product life cycle, often culminating in market decline, where they fall out of favor with consumers. For this reason, it's important to continue adapting even after reaching product/market fit, or your success could be short-lived. Once again, It's key to remember Simon Sinek's advice in The Infinite Game. Treat business as an infinite game, where the goal is to continue playing. How to reach the tipping point. Among your own products, you need to reach tipping points to maximize momentum. In Crossing the Chasm, Jeffrey Moore provides a guideline for helping you reach tipping points by crossing the chasm between the early and mainstream market. This guideline includes 4 steps. Use your intuition to choose a niche market to target. Develop a simplified whole product for your niche. Roughly, this is your core product and necessary external components. For example, a simplified whole product of a smartphone would include the phone and its operating system and charging devices. Position your product by developing a position statement that situates it among competitors in the market. Secure a distribution channel to sell your product to potential customers. For example, imagine you want to create a dating app. First, you might intuitively see the potential for a dating app for divorcees and choose them as your niche market. Next, you could develop a beta version of your website ready for a smaller pool of members. After that, you could position your product as a viable alternative to the competition, highlighting its advantages. Finally, you could purchase advertisements located in places most viewed by divorcees. Broaden your expertise across various disciplines by consistently enhancing your realm of proficiency. The book's final thoughts by Weinberg and McCann explore the concept that every individual has a unique combination of skills and knowledge that allows them to think and operate effectively. Their proficiency has boundaries, and when they step beyond these confines, they may make choices rooted in misinformation or flawed reasoning. An entrepreneur or investor might tenaciously pursue ideas outside their area of expertise, leading to a series of misguided decisions. In Freakonomics, Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner argue that we defer to conventional thinking because it's convenient and allows us to avoid the complexity of the real world. Because conventional thinking is typically founded upon anecdotes, rather than quantitative data, it results in misconceptions. Consequently, they argue, appealing to conventional wisdom often leads us away from truth. The authors illustrate the expansion of one's specialized knowledge through the example of mastering multiplication. Once you comprehend the foundational idea of progressive accumulation, your ability to address problems fundamentally concerned with gradual increases expands, and with a firm grasp on this concept, you become capable of solving various complex problems that may have previously seemed too daunting to undertake. The principle is widely applicable across numerous disciplines in the context of mental models. Improving your skills in this domain can expand your mental viewpoints, resulting in more complex thought processes and better decision-making. In The Great Mental Models Volume 1, Shane Parrish and Rhiannon Beaubien argue that mental models can serve an even broader purpose, cultivating wisdom. Though it's unclear what constitutes wisdom, Parrish and Beaubien claim that it involves the ability to see creative solutions to various problems. In this view, wisdom is practical. It helps us know what to do in the face of unexpected challenges. What is worldly wisdom? Let's take each word in turn. Worldliness means being concerned with ordinary life. Wisdom, on the other hand, implies knowledge of the big picture when it comes to life as a whole. But there's more to it than that. Simply knowing lots of isolated facts isn't particularly useful. As the American investor Charlie Munger once put it, if the facts don't hang together on a latticework of theory, you don't have them in usable form. And that's our definition. Worldly wisdom is about plugging our knowledge about life into theoretical models that illuminate everyday problems. So where do you find those models? Well, that's exactly the question Gabriel Weinberg and Lauren McCann set out to answer. Drawing on economics, physics, philosophy, and a host of other disciplines, these blinks present a set of mental models that will help you understand the world, make better decisions, and take your thinking to the next level. Along the way, you'll learn what a 14th century philosopher can teach you about dating, why avoiding errors is more important than being right, and what an Israeli daycare center can teach us about reciprocity. Let's continue exploring the insights of this remarkable book. 1. Superthinking leverages tried and true concepts to help us explain the world and make better decisions. We make dozens of decisions every day. They aren't all big decisions, but enough bad calls can cumulatively result in overdrawn bank accounts, unhappy marriages, and dead-end jobs. That means that every decision counts. Life, however, is full of complicated conundrums and ambiguous evidence. Making up our minds often feels less like an act of reason than a stab in the dark. Surely there's a better way? Well, there is. Superthinking, a way of understanding the world that relies on proven cognitive blueprints to make sense of the jumble of data out there. Let's unpack that. Every industry has its own mental models that allow practitioners to create mental pictures of a problem. These aren't one-off snapshots, but techniques that can be reapplied time and again. That's the model part. Put differently, they're recurring concepts that explain the world. Most mental models are pretty rarefied and used only by specialists. Others are much more widely applicable. These supermodels can help us make sense of everyday life. Take critical mass. Physicists use it to describe the minimum amount of nuclear mass needed to create a critical state that triggers a nuclear chain reaction. But it's also a handy model in other contexts, like that of technological change. Fax machines were invented in the 1840s, but languished in obscurity for over a century. Why? Their cost meant only a few wealthy individuals and organizations could afford to adopt the technology. That affected the perceived value of faxing. Even if you bought a machine, you wouldn't be able to communicate with anyone you knew. As the cost came down, more people bought fax machines and more connections became possible. To put that into numbers, 2 devices can make 1 connection, 5 can make 10 and 12 can make 66. By the 1970s, faxing had reached critical mass. There were enough machines that the network itself became useful. If you had your own device, chances were you'd be able to contact anyone. Contemporary businesses have made a killing leveraging that insight. Critical mass told ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft, for example, how many drivers they needed in cities before people would begin relying on their services. That's not the only supermodel that you can use to cut through complexity. In the following blinks, we'll be looking at a ton of shortcuts to help you boost your cognitive performance. 2. Avoiding unforced errors and arguing from first principles can help you be wrong less often. How we look at something determines the way we think about it. Take it from 19th century German mathematician Carl Jacobi. His motto, invert, always invert, which means that it's often easier to solve a problem when you approach it from the opposite or inverse point of view. Investors, for instance, usually assume their aim is to make money. But Jacobi would say that it's actually to avoid losing money. That goes for decision-making, too. Common sense says that making better calls is about being right more often. Inversion tells us it's actually about being wrong less often. 3. Occam's razor might just hold the key to your love life. We've just seen that solid reasoning is built on fundamental truths, but how do you know those are correct? It's an age-old question. The 2nd century Roman astronomer Ptolemy, for example, argued that it was a good principle to explain phenomena by the simplest hypothesis possible. 1200 years later, the English philosopher William of Ockham reached the same conclusion. When confronted with equally plausible and competing assumptions, the simpler is more likely to be true. Call it Occam's razor. The idea is to shave off unnecessarily intricate explanations. In other words, think horses, not zebras, when you hear hoofbeats. For putting yourself in others' shoes is hard, but the veil of ignorance can help you make fairer decisions. Working out other people's motivations is tricky, especially when they're strangers. The upshot? We jump to unfair conclusions. If a colleague sends us a curt one-line email, we think he's being dismissive and discount the idea that he might just be in a rush. Psychologists call that a fundamental attribution error. While we explain our own behavior by looking to our intentions and external circumstances, we ascribe other people's actions to essential characteristics. If you run a red light, it's because you need to get to the hospital. If another driver does it, it's because she's inherently reckless. 5. If you don't want to get left behind by social change, you need to become adaptable. The peppered moth is a night-active species native to temperate climates and a familiar sight across Britain. Before the Industrial Revolution, most peppered moths in northwestern England were light-colored, a trait that helped them camouflage themselves on light tree bark. But between 1811 and 1895, the percentage of dark peppered moths rose from 0.01% to 98%. What happened? It's a classic example of Darwin's theory of the survival of the fittest. Pollution from coal mines covered trees in a thick layer of soot. Lighter moths then became easy prey for predators, while their darker counterparts remained hidden and thrived. 6. Anecdotal evidence and the fallacy that correlation implies causation skew our understanding of statistical data. We live in a data-driven world. Quantification, once the preserve of scientists and engineers, shapes the way we understand everything from climate change to our personal lives. You might even be using apps that tally up your daily movements and tell you how much sleep you're getting. That's good, right? Well, yes and no. As the American writer Mark Twain liked to point out, there are lies, damned lies in statistics. Numbers, in other words, can mislead as easily as they can inform. And that's why it's so important to avoid statistical stumbles. 7. Confusing social and market norms undermine reciprocity. Let's face it, life is full of conflict. In economics, these adversarial situations are sometimes described as social games, pitting self-interested players against one another. Most conventional games are zero-sum. If you win, I lose. Unlike chess, however, real life isn't black and white. Sometimes everyone can win. Take a study of tipping discussed in American psychologist Robert Cialdini's 1984 book Influence. It found that waiters who give their customers small gifts increase their tips. An after-dinner mint equaled a 3% rise. 2 mints took that to 14%, while 2 mints and a line like, and for you nice folks, an extra mint pushed it to 23%. In conclusion, Superthinking is a must-read for anyone looking to enhance their cognitive abilities, sharpen their decision-making skills, and cultivate a more rational and logical mindset. This book is a valuable resource that will empower you to think more effectively and achieve greater success in all areas of your life. You can find the link to acquire a copy of this remarkable book in the description below. Thank you for watching our video on the book summary of Superthinking by Gabriel Weinberg with Lauren McCann. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you found this book summary helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more book summaries and self-improvement tips to help you achieve your goals and lead a more fulfilling life. And share this uplifting summary with someone who may benefit from hearing them. Leave a comment down below if you've read this book or have any other recommendations for us. And also don't forget to explore our curated playlists of book summaries covering various topics. Stay tuned for our next video where we will be discussing another impactful book. Until next time, keep superthinking and striving for excellence. Bye for now.